All right, Kerri, one scripted question, then all off the cuff. But how did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise backstory?
Oh, interesting. I mean, I've been running my business for 15 years and I kind of early on started, wanting to go the franchise route. Obviously, life gets in the way, pandemic, having kids, but, here I am 15 years later, finally taking that leap into franchising.
Okay, so it's part of the original business plan. Take me through what was the process of even becoming a franchise? Did you use a consultant? Did you do it on your own? Like, how was that process?
How to start turning my business into a franchisable concept. Yes, I used a consultant, and this we're going pre-pandemic. We're going back to 2018. I hired a consultant to do my ops manual, connect me with the legal team, start the FDD process, get registered in the states that I needed to be registered in. I am a New York City based business, so New York is one of those tougher states to get registration in. Yeah, and everything was approved. I did the IFE show that June, started doing my sales and marketing, and by that, the next March, everything was shut down for quite some time.
Walk me through that. So you're a franchise. You do this show in June of 2019.
Yes.
What
Uh-huh.
was your expectation out of what would happen next? Like, were you thinking we're going to have 5 or 10? Or like, where was your brain then? What was the reality? And then how have you navigated kind of that big reset?
Sure. So I think back then I was definitely younger, and I think it was just kind of like, hey, let's do this. Let's see what happens. Like I didn't really go at it with a structured plan, which I know is a huge mistake. So, maybe the reset was a great thing. Um, but I do know the general rule of growing slowly regionally in the beginning, which I think is still very, very smart. The reset during COVID, I mean, it was definitely tough. Not only was the franchise side of the business, not happening. My studios were closed. I had two studios in Manhattan, and they were shut down for quite some time. New York was very, very strict on that, so we didn't open for about 6 months, I want to say. So it was a wild time, and I know for everybody it was a difficult time. I spent my pandemic time writing a book for kids, a fashion design book for kids, and I had my daughter during that time. So I was busy. I stayed busy. And then upon reopening it, it was definitely a time where you had to build business back up. People were afraid to come in, especially a children's business where you're working in kind of close quarters. Manhattan spaces are tiny, so you're next to people all the time. So it was a good couple of years before I could say the business was like back to pre-pandemic levels and then better, and then I could start the franchise process again.
Okay, now you've started it. You have
Hmm.
unit one opening.
Opening soon, yes. Mhm.
Where's your expectation at now? What does winning the rest of this year, next year look like? What's your definition there?
I again, slowly and regionally until I get this thing, down packed, my training, my manuals, and really just have a wonderful system in place to make franchisees successful, which is what I've been, working on all summer is just getting this system in place to make franchisees successful. And I know it's a learning process and I know it will change continually over time. But I definitely want to focus on slow growth until this is very, very manageable for me and I can, have a larger team essentially.
Yes. So if I'm paraphrasing for you,
Mhm.
you've changed it. There are no expectations. You know that you're going to continue to do the right things for your business. When or if you get the next franchisee, you're not putting extreme pressure on yourself that we have to sell a franchise by X time. You're now in a place where you're like, we're going to grow. Whatever direction we grow in is how we're going to grow here on out.
I would say I have a little bit more drive than that. I do want to open five within the next year. That is my personal goal. Um, and I would say that I do want to open a third corporate store where I live now in New Jersey. But quality of life is also very important to me. So I want to make sure it's all very, very manageable until, like I said, until I can hire a larger team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always fascinated by from I've made a decision to franchise my business to I've franchised my business to I've sold my first franchisee to here's where my expectations go, and that's part of why I'm opening up this part of the process, which I'll say another comment on that in a second. The other reason is whenever we've taken a franchisee and say, let's try to simplify the buying process, vision of the founder, what are we actually trying to accomplish? Partly so that the franchise buyer believes in the founder vision, point of differentiation on the product, cost to get in, how much I can make, where you're growing, and validation. So we've hit where you're growing. You're like, let's keep this as regional as possible. And now we're working through that vision part. And so the number is like 87%. I'd say I've heard the number is 87% of first-time franchisors don't sell a franchise in their first year.
Mm-hmm.
And of which that number stays pretty consistent for the first 2 years of business. And so you think about that, and then you go back to the front end where, obviously someone has to excite you to say you are going to franchise the business to the point of you actually get unit 1 done. That sometimes that can feel turbulent or chaotic, or like, why is this not working? You exhibit at a show. Why are we not getting, where are these franchise buyers? And I back up and say it's so complex. Like the complexity of franchising is so tough that what I'm hearing is some of the foundational work that you're doing is should pay dividends in part of your structure as you go forward. So, any comments on all those words?
I hope so. That's all I can say. No, I definitely see it. It can be chaotic and disheartening at times for sure. And then you'll get like a very heartfelt email from someone who like really, really believes in the concept. Like I got one last night, so that's why it's fresh in my mind. Who really, really believes in the concept, like really, really wants to open, is so excited, and then you're like, okay, like it's not just I'm not crazy. Other people, see the value, see the vision, and want to start their own business.
That person, were they a fan of the brand? Like, do they have a relationship with the business?
No, they do not. Mm-mm.
That's great. I like that. If you can understand what the business opportunity is from afar, that's great. So go talk a little bit about the vision, cost to get in, how much you can make. What's your answer on that?
I do have an item 19 in my FDD. It currently lists my 2 Manhattan stores because they're so close together that I don't break out sales. So, I mean, it's in my FDD, right? I could say it all the
time. Yeah, just the specific numbers that are in the FDD, nothing beyond
it. Just making sure. Still learning here. So my 2 stores gross $955,000 together, and then the AUV, so between those two, 539,000 is what I'm showing on my item 19. I have a really great customer return rate of 55%. People really, really love the business. They'll start, as a child and run through the business like until they're a teenager. They'll continuously take classes. 2,900 individual bookings last year, with an average order value of $321. So obviously in Manhattan, charge a little bit more for that. But I think it gives potential franchisees, a good look at what the numbers could be.
So it was about 500 to do build out. Was that number?
Oh, build out, like initial investment numbers. Yeah. The range is 140 to 250,000 to build out. There's so many, when you have a brick and mortar, obviously, as you know, there's so many different things to consider, size and market and how much rent is going to be built out.
And you have some data with Virginia Beach coming in soon, right?
I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I assume it's somewhere in that range that it should land in.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. She's on the lower end of the range, actually. She found a beautiful studio in a high-end shopping center, great location, great rents, and super small business friendly landlords, and the excitement's definitely building down there. But her construction definitely came in on the lower end of that.
Talk about the operating of the business. How many hours are you putting in on a unit? Obviously, you have multi-unit plus you have a franchise business, so
Yes.
you're a little bit more chaotic than a franchisee. We can talk about how does the hours work.
Sure. I mean, me personally, at this point, I'm very absentee because I am focusing primarily on franchising. Um, I have managers in each studio, and assistant managers, and then a teaching team in each studio. So a franchisee could run it that way. I do believe that in the beginning, a franchisee should be somewhat owner operator, either on the management side, planning, scheduling, can even go into customer service, or on the teaching side. If the franchisee has that sewing skill set and wants to be in the classroom, that's an option as well, and they can hire a manager for front desk and customer service. So there are kind of a few ways to break those roles out. And then business is successful, they could definitely take on a more absentee owner role.
What's the hours of operation?
I'm open 7 days a week. Kids during the school year, weekdays are mostly after school hours. We do some toddler programming, crafting during the mornings. Weekends are pretty busy, and summers are very busy.
Yeah. I mean, even on the flexibility during the work week, because I also heard like life balance is still important here, and for
Yes.
you figure out a way to how do I have my life balance? You had a child during COVID, like how do you have your life balance as it relates back to the business? And obviously you've built something up that now you can be semi-absentee on the core foundation, and so that helps paint the vision for a franchisee. If you had to explain in an elevator speech what you do, how would you answer that?
The fashion class teaches sewing and design classes to children, teens, and adults ages 2 to 102.
Very easy. Now, what about on the if you turn that into a franchise positioning? What's the why you why now?
Why me? Why now? I mean, why now? I am 100% dedicated. I'm still very small, so a franchisee gets all of me right now. They get my full focus, which won't be the case forever. Um, and why this business? It's like back to the quality of life thing. I built this business. I started it, super young when I was 24. This is not an elevator pitch. I'm sorry. It has given me a very wonderful quality of life. I was able to have my 2 kids, take full maternity leave for both, which is super, super rare in, the corporate world, and just, really be able to be there for them, be there for the business, and mesh both worlds together. I think that's an amazing opportunity.
Right now, after we're done with this, I want you to go back to the 12 and a half minute mark and play this back. So right now, your why you why now is the fashion class, now franchising. You said such the powerful messages that I heard there was you get all of me. Like as an emerging brand, we have 2 units that are performing well. It cash flows the business. We have another unit coming, and now you get all of me from a support standpoint. Like I think that's a good structure. And like if you really play through that message, connecting back to the art of fashion or the art of sewing, if you only got support, if the needle only works so much, the sewing's not going to have the outcome that you want. And so like there's something to weave back in of the art of what you're teaching back to the art of what you're teaching from a franchisee standpoint. And then what you just said, like, not that you have to be female centric,
of course,
but you just said some powerful statements around why, like, you could actually live your life, have the life that you want, plus find your purpose, and which you can dial in specifically. It could be to a career female who left career to go raise children, which I would argue is harder than business. Or it could be someone that like that message can completely connect with. So you say, are you passionate about fashion and dream about opening up your own business? Are you passionate about purpose? Like now adjust your messaging so that it can get there. Now I say all that, but you just talked about a lead that came in that doesn't have a relationship with the brand and was like, I love what you're doing, I want in. And so I'm trying to make it easier in a different way. And then when you start breaking down, you said like what a franchisee may offer, great. They can figure that out. I would change that section to what you offer a franchisee. Like just going back to the fact that I'll have your back in this process, and it's a good business, and like it's there in the numbers. I would also move your numbers into the website. Like the more information that you can give to the ghost candidate, the more likely they are to fill out that form. And so, like I've said this to many people. I go, if you and I go back to the day before we're in franchising, you go back to 2018, and I go back to 2004, and say, explain it. I can't do it. And so to a buyer, they can't do it either. And so the next level of this is like, you already have the construct in how your website is. You have about us, what we do, our history. You have drop down opportunity on your website. I put in what is franchising and what franchising means to me, like what I learned, because that's all of you. And the fact that you spent the last 5 years really studying the business to make sure that you're perfecting it. And so this is where, like, overusing this term credit, but I think you need to take more credit for what you're doing and how you're doing it, because that's what I'm going to buy into. And per you saying, you get all of me. That's part of the magic of why I would want to buy your brand, because I know that you're going to guide me along the way to get it. So again, like I look at it as an outsider saying, like, do you answer the pieces that I want? And that you just answered them in a beautiful way. So now I just talked for 3 minutes, but go back to the 12:30 mark. Any comments on that?
I appreciate it. First podcast where I'm actively taking business notes, so thank you. I've never been. No, I've me with marketing. I'm a very literal person, so I'm like, here is the pack. Getting in touch with that feeling and conveying that on a website is so hard for me sometimes. So I appreciate all of the feedback.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it takes a moment, like talking it through to get there. No, not to overcomplicate it. If I go back to your main site, where creative kids find their spotlight, I mean, it could be where career women find their purpose. Like you could take almost the same message. That way, you're having it exactly the same style when you get over to the website. And then you say stitch, style, shine. Well, the stitching is how I build a business plan. Like, we help you from the time that we start the conversation to how are you going to fund this thing to where you're going to locate it. You stitch together the business opportunity. The style is now taking a brand that we've built up that resonates with an audience and cross-applying that back to your unit. And the shining is you open unit 1 and we duplicate what Kerri has done as you open up unit 2. And so you can take the same formula that you've laid out on the consumer side and cross-apply it back over to the brand side too.
I love that. That's very cool. Definitely using it. Thank you.
Yeah, great. All right. So vision is we want to get to 5 this year. What else is important that if someone's out there in the world listening to this, what is important for them to know about your vision for where this brand goes and the impact that it has to the communities that you're going to serve?
Absolutely. So back to where creative kids find their spotlight. The reason I even started this brand was because I was a very, very shy child. You would not find me in theater or dance or on a stage anywhere. So my grandmother taught me how to sew, and this became my passion. This is what gave me confidence. Making clothes, being able to wear them to school and say, hey, I made this at like 8, 9, 10 years old was just a huge confidence boost. So that is why the fashion class exists. And that is why I'm franchising and why I would like for that story and that message to be imparted to other young children across the US who may be in the same boat. There's not a whole lot out there as far as children's enrichment for, kids who are a little bit more on the creative side, who don't necessarily want to do sports and be active or be on stage. And obviously, there's STEM and robotics, like there are things, there's art classes, but why not fashion? Why not sewing alongside those things?
I also heard confidence. I would take that over to the franchise side too, like building confidence in tomorrow's franchisees. Like, it's the same thing, because ultimately for a franchise owner to buy in, most likely they had to go through some sort of turbulence that made them say, like, they felt undervalued in their career, or they felt like they were missing something. And so that confidence boost through sewing is quite exciting. And for what it's worth, 1851 is called 1851 because Singer Sewing Machine's first franchise in 1851. So you already have that too. You're already connected back to the.
I think there's a singer behind me.
Oh,
there it is.
I should have. I didn't think this is dumb, Nick. But usually where I film these is up front, and we have all our Singer Sewing Machines on our.
Oh, cool! Oh, that's amazing. I love it. Anytime I'm at an estate sale, I see when I pick it up.
Me too. Yeah, it's part of our brand too. Well, look, I'm excited for where the business goes. I think you've done a lot of the groundwork. I would tighten up your story and be proud of what you've done. And I know you're taking a literal approach. I would take the emotional approach because franchising is very emotional. And you have all the tools and the foundation of the business to put it forward. But I'm excited to see where you go and look forward to seeing where the story goes from here on out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you too. For Kerri, I'm Nick. This was another episode of Meet the Franchise. Take care.